Okay, I want to talk about the Indonesian tsunami. All right, so the media has been covering the Indonesian tsunami and what it did to all those people, which is horrifically tragic, but wholly preventable. And so the media and the government have been pushing completely inane and utterly irresponsible take on common sense. The simple fact of the matter is that the government and the media have access to volcanologists, geologists, and so on and so forth, and the amount of data that's been compiled about these issues. The simple fact of the matter is there's a lot of data that points to a very real possibility of what took place. And it doesn't, and you don't need to be a brain surgeon or a rocket scientist to understand the potential for what happened. But the media framing and the government framing is that, we didn't have the money, or we couldn't possibly know about what would happen, and so on and so forth. But we have a history, a history that is documented, that the possibilities are out there. No matter how small the possibility, the steps should have been taken to protect the lives of the people who would potentially be hit by the effects. But the media is saying, they're bringing on these supposed experts or these supposed investigators or investigative journalists, and they're doing the blame game, and they're obfuscating the facts, and so on and so forth, and spinning it. Now, DW, whom I respect, is one of the only mainstream, but I like to refer to them as Main Street news media services out there, which is not independent social media. Even they did the blame game, and they did the obfuscating. The simple fact of the matter is that because of the abundance of information that's out there, and the potential for the effects of something like Krakatoa, an active volcano, surrounded and literally surrounded by oceanic waters, as well as how close it is to fault lines and all that other stuff, and that should have given it a higher degree, but that's not what happened. And what should have been was people should have been taken out of the potential areas that the effects could reach, because those effects can be measured. And so what should have happened was people should have been pulled away from that area, business should have been shut down, and a full-scale evacuation, because there's a fair degree of accuracy as how far, depending on the highest levels. And if you are responsible, then you would say, okay, well, let's take in the worst possible scenario. And all right, so I seem to have lost YouTube live, but as I was saying, taking the worst possible scenario, they should have been responsible enough to pull people out of there. But that's not what happened. What was given precedence was making money and that serves a fuel. That serve a fuel. Wow. Keep losing the feed. Anyways, I was saying what should have been taking place was pulling out people, being responsible, caring for the lives that you're supposed to be responsible for, and getting in responsible professionals who will give more precedence to the lives that will be possibly lost and the damage that happens, rather than to financial monetary interests. And so this whole this whole tsunami fiasco could have been prevented. They should have waited until Krakatoa had stopped being active and given a reasonable enough time to make sure that the possibility of dangers were passed before allowing the regular life to resume. But that's not what happened, and that makes what happened wholly uh, uh, criminally, negligently irresponsible. And so the government completely failed. The media has completely failed because what should have taken place is what I have been saying, and not what the media has been covering. Could it have been forecasted? Could it have been who's to blame, and so on and so forth? When the responsible thing was to pull people out because of the potential, no matter how small, and waited until the possibility of a crisis had passed. And that's not what took place. And just like with everything else, whether it's in the wildfires in California, the wildfires in Greece, or anywhere else, these are the sort of things that aren't put into consideration because lives of citizens matter less, and it does not matter if people get angry, because I would rather have people angry for an honest mistake than leave the potential for the harm of citizens whom I am responsible for the safety. So, as I said, it all comes down to these factors. You know, being not being courageous enough, responsible enough, and civically minded enough, and simply wanting to make money. And money is no excuse for the deaths and tragedies of people. It really isn't. So we have to refocus our thinking, and we have to want people that can think the way I do and the way I've explained things, and not through expediency or embarrassment. Uh, Responsible leadership means being a person who considers the safety and well-being of the public that puts their trust in them. Thanks.